How was it for you on day one, Tanis? That's the thing I think we have to ask before we go into the perfect build hotspot and all that. How was it for you on day one?
Was challenging. At the end of the day, it was challenging for many reasons. One, because and we can debate whether it's a good thing or not a good thing, but because it is open to everyone, because it is an instance, it made it very difficult for me to try to find things because of all the visual clutter that people bring in. So that was difficult. Then after finding the stuff that I needed to make the stuff that I needed, then we get into the little, I guess I call them sprinkles because I wouldn't even call them sparkles. They're not big enough for sparkles. They're more like sprinkles, which are supposed to indicate the place that you're supposed to be building.
Yeah, the optimal build hotspot.
Mm-hmm. Now, the difference between this and, say, either a Rockatunity or, a Time Sprite is those are smaller clusters that when you spin your camera around, you can see the whole kind of area that you're going to have to go to back and forth.
Sure.
This is spread out to a point where it's beyond my field of view, so I can't do that. And something Zardones had brought up before too is when it disappears, it just disappears and it just reappears somewhere else. It doesn't like take off and have a trail where you could kind of like follow it if you saw it leaving, where you would know, oh, it's behind me now, or this or that.
Yeah, the Time Sprite does that really well.
Yeah, and so that was really difficult. Now, eventually I did figure out that the mouse over text does say optimal, which was good because I really can't make out the sprinkles sometimes. Like it's just too small. I don't see them at all, and so I look for the mouse over text where it says optimal. But as you can imagine, that's kind of cumbersome.
Yeah, and for new listeners to the podcast, we'll preface this by saying you're playing with magnifier so that you only in effect see around the area where your mouse is at what, 250%, I think, or more.
Yeah, it's about 300. Yeah.
Okay, 300. What about the audio cue?
The audio cue was nice. That was something that I was glad to see. But I also thought it was, I mean, it's subtle. Which, that's fine. I'm glad it's there, like, just in general, right?
Yeah. I mean, the best way I could describe it is, generic workshop sound, saw, sander, kind of all that stuff combined into one. And I think the question then that comes up from that is that, a sound effect that's just, designed to increase immersion, or is it more accessibility related? And does it need to be more accessibility related? Because did you know what that was before I pointed that out?
No. I just thought it was regular.
Yeah, and it only happens around the optimal hotspot. So, and I mean, it's pretty important too, we need to say, because you're getting a 20% XP buff by keeping that perfect build going.
Yeah, and I find that like it's very discouraging for me, right? Like, there's none of those buildings can you turn to where you can see the whole thing, like where you would be able to click and follow it.
Yeah.
Actively, like, and without that, the XP goes so far down that it's just like,
yeah, and the numbers we pointed out earlier were perfect build numbers, so shave 20% off that even more.
Yeah, you lose that percentage fast if you're not following,
and it doesn't recover. And maybe like archaeology, a bit of feedback on that would be to make it recover the longer you're on the perfect build hotspot.
Mm-hmm.
So Okay, so in general, you'd say it's not an F, but it's not as optimal as it could be then.
Yeah, I would put it somewhere around a C.
All right, fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Zerdones, did you have any accessibility things that popped up in your mind, or in general with the fort system?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of these. Like, I'm not visually impaired like Dennis is, but honestly, I was having all the same problems he mentioned. Not as severely, obviously, but I was having them too.